The NFL draft is over, but the Bengals, well, they're just getting started after adding 10 draft picks to their roster. We're going to break them all down later this week right here on Cincinnati Bengals Talk. You'll get my thoughts on all 10 draft picks from pick 1, Ja'Marr Chase, all the way down to Wyatt Hubert, the Bengals' 7th round selection. But I wanted to give you this clip, just some quick thoughts from my interview on Fox19 with Jeremy Rauch and Joe Danneman from earlier this week. I appeared on their talk show and got to chat about the Bengals draft haul.
You know, it feels like a good time to talk some Bengals draft after the Bengals drafted 10 new players, and James Rapien of Sports Illustrated knows all things Bengals. I mean, his website is basically named after that. James, you were there for every step of the draft. You saw all 10 players. Give me what you liked the most about the Bengals draft.
I love that they, picked the best player on their board, which was Ja'Marr Chase. They didn't succumb to the pressure that, especially nationally and even here locally, oh my gosh, Joe Burrow is never going to be able to play quarterback and stay healthy if you don't take Penei Sewell. So they had Ja'Marr Chase ranked higher. It wasn't because Burrow was pushing for him, and they took him. So that's the first thing. And the other thing I liked is they didn't ignore the trenches. They realized they needed to be more physical, that they needed to be much better on the offensive and defensive lines. And that's why you said 10 picks, 70% of those spent on offensive linemen and defensive linemen. And is it going to pay off right away? Hopefully. But worst case, at least they know, hey, we got to be more physical if we're going to win games in the AFC North.
I thought one of the best questions of draft week came from James when you asked Zach Taylor what he would say to people who thought not drafting an offensive lineman in the first round would be, quote, malpractice. I thought his answer was good to the question. I thought it was a great question. I'm curious, what's your take to the question, to that national narrative? And there still are people out there who believe the Bengals didn't do the right thing in getting Joe Burrow, an elite offensive lineman, in the top 5.
It's lazy. That take is lazy. And the reason I asked it, how many offensive linemen went off the board after Penei Sewell that are going to start in year 1? How many offensive linemen after Penei Sewell are going to eventually start? Well, I think the Bengals probably got 2 future starting offensive linemen. Jackson Carman, probably going to start day 1 at right guard. But then they go and get Deontay Smith from ECU. And I love this pick. To the people that think, I can't believe the Bengals didn't draft Penei Sewell. Well, one, they took a better prospect, a guy in their minds that is going to transform their offense. And they still got 2 future starting offensive linemen. And even if you think Jackson Carman was a reach at 46, well, even in round 3, guess what? He would have probably been a projected starter. So I like what they did there. And that was the point all along. They can still protect Joe Burrow and get him an elite weapon. And there weren't many Ja'Marr Chases in this draft. In fact, there was 1. And then there was 2 other potentially elite weapons, maybe 3 if you include Rashad Bateman, and they weren't going to be there in round 2. And guess what? They weren't.
Let's go beyond the top 2 picks, beyond Ja'Marr and Jackson. I want to know from you, James, what is the pick that you see as a guy that might surprise some people with how early of an impact he has on this team?
I actually like the kicker pick, and not because it gives them great value or there's great value there. But if Evan McPherson works out and he can hit from 50 plus yards routinely, that is such a weapon for Joe Burrow to have. That's such a weapon for an offense that has a 3-headed monster at wide receiver that plans on scoring a ton of points moving forward. If you get anywhere inside the 40-yard line, guess what? That's 3. That's a heck of a weapon that the Ravens have had with Justin Tucker for the past decade. And I'm not saying he's going to be Justin Tucker, but let's use another name, Harrison Butker of the Chiefs. You know how beneficial it is to have a guy like Harrison Butker that can make 50-yard field goals routinely, and a guy like McPherson who has the Florida record, I believe, with 4 50-plus yard field goals made in his college career. I like it a lot, and we'll see if it pans out. It's obviously a risk drafting a kicker in round 5, but if it does pan out, then it's certainly worth the draft capital that they used on him.